call the meeting to order. I want to welcome everybody again. We are recording the meeting live on the City of Madison's YouTube channel. You can also view it in archive. Today is Tuesday, September the 19th. As with all of our other meetings, we will stand, bow our heads, remove our hats, recite the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get into the business of the evening. Thank you.
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Of course. Good evening, Council. Krebs?
Here.
Lucy DeTillo? Here. Chatham?
Here.
Bartlett?
Here.
Dan DeTillo? Here. Josh?
Here.
And Tevenoff.
Here.
All right, Council, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes from the council meeting dated September 5th? If so, we'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes from the prior meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 5th as written.
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Well, we have two proclamations we'd like to read tonight. And I'd like to ask anybody who is here representing the recovery community, as well as the suicide prevention community in Madison, please come up, and I'd like to present you with the resolution that I'll read. And before I do that, Dina, maybe introduce yourself,
Okay.
if you all don't mind.
Okay. Hi, my name is Dina Andrew. I'm a lifelong resident of Jefferson County. And on June 20th, I got a call that we had lost someone to suicide in our community, someone that I didn't know. But it started this whole thing with suicide prevention. And we lost this gentleman, and his daughter is here tonight with me, and she is on our team, and she is instrumental in helping us get things going. So we now have a PTSD group every Friday night at 6 at the Recovery Cafe. We work together. And we have a grief support group starting next Tuesday. So we're anxious to get those started. I'm going to become a QPR trainer and start training everyone that I can about the signs and symptoms and how we can avoid getting people in crisis.
Michelle Jones, I'm the executive director of the Recovery Cafe. Our mission at the cafe is to help support people in recovery, have a fun, sober, safe place to come to. We are open Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We also will be having an MFA program, which is a Members Financial Assistance Program that's going to help anybody that has drug court, felony, misdemeanor, with their finances, help with transportation, gas cards, finding them a home, and providing resources to them. So.
And I know you're holding a picture. Would you like to share with everyone?
Yeah. This was my dad, Brian Clark. Like she said, we went to our hospital on Father's Day this year. It was the 18th of June, and we were trying to seek care because he was having some kind of mental issue that we'd never seen that before. It came on pretty suddenly. He was having, he needed help, and we found out that the resources in our community are seriously lacking, and so that is why we've, as a community, have gotten together to try and bridge the gaps
and to help other people that might be seeking help and make sure that they get what they need. So that's why we're here. And like I said, his name was Brian Clark.
Well, thank you all for being here, and it's an emotional topic to talk about. On the National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, you're all probably also aware that just in the past week, when Chief Wallace was on his way down here from responding to an accident, he had 2 suicides in our community. And every one of them is very, very difficult for the community. But we also want to recognize the work that you all are doing, because without the work that you're doing, and as you said, bridging that gap, the gap that's needed so desperately across our community, education, awareness, grief support, prevention, both on the suicide and on the substance use side of things, is so important, because often they go hand in hand. So I have 2 proclamations I'd like to read. And Scott, thank you for being here. Chrissy, thank you for being here. If you'd also like to share some remarks, because you are on the front lines, all of you, you have always been on the front lines, Scott, with regard to this tragedy that plagues every community. Feel free to make some remarks if you'd like. Thank you, though. I want to thank you. Yes, sir. Whereas National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month is recognized every year in September to raise visibility and awareness of mental health resources and suicide prevention services in our community. Suicide is the 11th leading cause of death in the United States and second leading cause of death among individuals between the age of 10 and 34, according to the American Prevention of Suicide. Whereas more than 1,000 Hoosier lives have been lost to suicide every year since 2016. Everyone in our community can play a role in preventing suicide. A simple phone call, a message, a hug can go a long way towards helping someone realize that suicide is not the answer. Starting community conversations about mental health and the impact of suicide helps destigmatize the conversation and connect people with the appropriate support services. Support is available during a mental health crisis through the Suicide Crisis Lifeline. Call, text, or chat to 988. Today, as mayor, you hereby proclaim September 23 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. The city of Madison encourage all residents to take the time to understand mental health through education and recognize that we need to take care of our mental health while we take care of each other. I'd like to go on to the National Recovery Month proclamation too. Keith, thank you for being here as well. If there's anything you'd like to share before I get into this one with regard to Healthy Communities initiatives and the work that you're doing on the front lines too, I'd invite you to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I appreciate all the support that you've given to the Healthy Communities Initiative. You've been there when we've needed you, and really appreciate that work. But yes, we had, for National Recovery Month, we had a showing of the film The Addict's Wake last week at Ivy Tech. We had 80 people in attendance, and it's just continuing to raise awareness and to remove the stigma that it's okay to talk about it and that there's hope. And there's a lot of concerned people in our community working together to do that. And there's other good things that are going on that I hope a year from now will be in an even better place. So thank you for all your work.
For all you're doing. We can't do it ourselves, and nobody should be alone in trying to tackle it. And no one is unscathed, candidly, about the impact of suicide and substance use. Nobody, seriously. National Recovery Month is recognized every year in September to promote and support new treatment and recovery practices. The nation's now we'll recess the city council proceedings and open the public hearing regarding the notice to taxpayers on the 2024 budget. So what we're doing here, council, is allowing anyone in the community who would like to make a statement with regards to the proposed 2024 budget. As council starts addressing the ordinance and approval process for passing the 2024 budget, we thought it'd be helpful if there was any public comment that would aid all of us in our decision making as we proceed with the ordinance process. First reading of the ordinances tonight, so we won't be commenting on the ordinance. But if there is anybody here who would like to make a statement with regards to the proposed 2024 budget, now would be a time. I'd ask you to come to the podium, give your name and address, and make your remarks, please. And we'll put those on the record, and council will take those into consideration when we get into the ordinance process.
Hi, my name's Erin Thomas. I'm the Executive Director at Lifetime Resources. I was actually going to speak a little later in the meeting today, but as this is specifically related to budget, I wanted to just take a moment to sort of educate you all about the services that we provide and have a little discussion about any support that may be possible for Lifetime Resources. So just a very brief history. Area Agencies on Aging were established by Congress in 1965 as part of the Older Americans Act, making them an integral part of communities nationwide. Here in Indiana, we have a network of 15 AAAs that covers the entire state. So while our agency serves 5 counties here in southeastern Indiana, obviously including Jefferson, there is an organization like ours that covers every single county. Our mission is working together to provide services that help people maintain their independence. As you'll hear a little bit later, Lifetime is partnering with the Senior Center to provide some funding for recent renovations, as well as getting the Congregate Meal Site, which we actually refer to as a Senior Nutrition Activity Center, back up and running again, now that River Terrace is willing and able to provide hot meals. You may be aware that during COVID, they were not able to continue providing the meals, and we looked high and low for another provider, and we just weren't able to come up with one at that time. And the seniors really were not interested in the frozen meals, and they had sort of worked it out amongst themselves to start bringing in meals and things like that. And so we sort of made the decision to put a halt to the program until we could really get them what they wanted, and we're nearly back to that point again, I'm happy to say. So we commend the city for its National Senior Center Month proclamation at the last meeting, and also showing a commitment to seniors on the move. As you said in the proclamation at the last meeting, seniors are significant members of our society, investing their wisdom and experience to help enrich and better the lives of younger generations, and I couldn't agree more. The proclamation also stated that the Senior Center affirms the dignity, self-worth, and independence of older persons. The question I'd like to pose to you this evening is, there are thousands of older adults in Madison, and what are we doing for those who aren't able to get out and go to the senior center? How is the city supporting those individuals to maintain their dignity, self-worth, and independence? I thought I'd make this a little more interactive than just standing and talking before you, as I typically have done for the last several years. So by a show of hands, how many of you know someone who is nearing or over the age of 60? Okay. All of us, I'm sure. And not surprisingly, Indiana's, I think that's normal, but also Indiana's population is aging rapidly. Over the next 10 years, their population projections show a 28% increase in Hoosiers 65 and older, and a 45% increase in Hoosiers 75 and older. So that's that baby boomer population aging rapidly. Okay, those of you, play along. Those of you who indicated that you know someone who is aging, please raise your hand once more if the individuals you're thinking of would like to remain in their home for as long as possible and delay or altogether avoid going into a nursing facility. And for those who would like to remain at home, how many would likely need some form of assistance to do so? And here are a few examples before you raise your hand. Simply understanding their options. I usually refer to this as information and assistance, but I don't know that people really resonate with that term. It means, what services are available? How do I choose the right Medicare plan? How do I prepare a will or protect my assets? Who can help me make decisions if I no longer have family available? Assistance in applying for Medicaid, home-delivered meals, assistive devices such as walkers, wheelchairs, canes, home modifications such as the installation of a ramp, for example, personal care, meaning assistance bathing, dressing, toileting, homemaking, which is light cleaning, meal prep, escort tasks, shopping assistance, transportation, medication management, training and support for a caregiver, personal emergency response systems, which are those like medical alert systems if they were to have a fall or something were to happen. Respite care for a caregiver, relieving them of their duties from time to time, allowing them to ensure that their own needs are met. Anybody think they might need those? Okay. If you answered yes to any of those and you wouldn't be able to manage the entire process or pay for it entirely out of pocket, lifetime is inherently involved. We are the designated entry point for those services, not only for older adults, which has been my focus thus far, but for individuals with disabilities as well. We provide information and options. We complete assessments and determine eligibility. We develop and manage the care plans, and we provide funding or partial funding for a variety of those services through a number of funding sources, such as Title III, Choice, which is community and home options to institutional care for elderly and disabled, Social Services Block Grant, and our Section 5311 Public Transportation Grant. Most of these funding sources also require some form of local match, ranging from 5 to 100%. Catch a Ride, our largest, most expensive service, requires 100% match. To give you all an idea of the value of our services, our average monthly care plan cost last year was $412. In comparison, the average monthly cost for a semi-private room in a nursing facility was over $7,200. Not only are we able to provide services that help people remain at home where they prefer to be, but it's also possible at only a fraction of the cost. While we do generate program revenue and match where possible through cost shares, catch-a-ride fares, contracted services, Medicaid, managed care, that sort of thing, there's still a need to generate additional match. We've been fortunate to receive support from all counties, the major cities and towns, and even townships for many, many years. We also receive support from the United Way, the Community Foundation of Madison and Jefferson County, and recently even the newly formed Bethany Legacy Foundation. Our budget here in Jefferson County alone is over $1.1 million, serving more than 1,000 residents. Madison residents specifically in 2022 received the following services. 204 individuals received information and assistance. 341 received case management services. 127 are receiving regular, ongoing, in-home services. 59 of which are funded by the services by those funding sources that I mentioned to you that Lifetime Resources provides, and that requires match. And then additional 68 are on Medicaid waiver, and you provide, or local match is not required for the Medicaid waiver, but it's just a piece of the picture here. You also have 53 individuals who are on home-delivered meals. So, I mentioned early on that, there's sort of an uproar over those 10 to 15 people at the senior center who were no longer getting a hot meal, but had the ability to get up, go to the senior center. I'm not sure that the need was there so much as these homebound individuals who are receiving home-delivered meals and really rely on them. We've been fortunate to have had support from the city of Madison for over 20 years. Likely even 40 years or more, but that's just as far as my accounting system would go quickly today. Dating way back to the early 2000s, we consistently received funding in excess of $20,000. And while our service offerings have expanded over the years, our request has remained at $25,000, representing only about 2% of Jefferson County's budget. Unfortunately, that seems to have changed as of 2023, as Lifetime is yet to receive any support from the city. We reached out, just as we have for the last 20 years or so, to request a meeting to get in front of you all and present our request. And instead, we didn't really receive great communication, and so we just kind of weren't sure what the next steps were. And so we followed up several times until it came time to make a request for next year's funding now. So I wasn't really sure if the process had changed or, what was going on. So for fear of not being included in the budget or missing my opportunity to speak, I wanted to stand up and give you all a clear understanding of the vital services that we provide, and to request your support in whatever way might be most appropriate. I do understand, that budgets are complex and you face tough decisions. However, I urge you to consider the long-term consequences of any actions taken regarding these matching funds. Cutting support for your area agency on aging may appear to save money in the short term, but the cost of our community's well-being and the potential for increased pressure on other services down the line are a significant concern. The decision we make here will profoundly impact the lives of our seniors, the most vulnerable and cherished members of our community. Let us remember that our elderly population is not a burden. They are our grandparents, parents, and mentors who have shaped our community. We owe it to them to provide the care, respect, and support they deserve to live out their golden years to the fullest. In conclusion, I implore you to reflect on the value of your area agency on aging and the positive impact it has on the lives of our seniors. I stand before you to advocate for the continuation of these matching funds, which have played a vital role in ensuring the well-being of our aging population. Let's not abandon our commitment to them, but rather find creative ways to maintain the vital support that they require. Together, we can continue to build a community that honors its past and secures a brighter future for all. And I'm willing to take any questions, and thank you for your consideration. I know that budgets are tougher than ever. We're hearing that from a lot of places. Some are choosing to utilize riverboat funds, for example, and different ways to kind of get creative. And we can get more creative too. I feel like we approach every possible source that we can. We're bringing a lot of funding to the table. Like I said, our budget is 1.1 million. Our request would typically have been 25,000, which is only 2%. And so, we're doing everything that we can to bring as much as we can to the table. Yet we need those local funds to leverage as much as we can from those state and federal dollars. So, thank you for your consideration. And does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other statement for council or the mayor regarding the 2024 budget? Okay, not having any, we'll adjourn the public hearing and reconvene council.
We have 4 ordinances on first reading tonight. The first is the ordinance regarding appropriations and tax rates. That's ordinance number 2023-13. Be it ordained by the Madison City Council that for the expenses of the Madison Civil City for the year ending December 31st, 2024, the sums herein specified are hereby appropriated and ordered set apart out of the several funds herein named, and for the purposes herein specified, subject to the laws governing the same. Such sums herein appropriated shall be held to have include all expenditures authorized to be made during the year, unless otherwise expressly stipulated and provided for by the law. In addition, the purposes of raising revenue to meet the necessary expenses of the Madison Civil City, the property tax levies and property tax rates as herein specified are included herein. Budget Form 4-B for all funds must be completed and submitted in the manner prescribed by the Department of Local Government Finance. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval by the Madison Civil City. And then there below are the fund names and the amounts of the adopted budget and the adopted tax levy and the adopted budget for the other fund names. The next ordinance is ordinance number 2023-14, and that is an ordinance fixing compensation of elected officials of the City of Madison, Indiana for the year 2024. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Madison will consider and take upon the proposed ordinance fixing annual compensation of all elected officials for the calendar year 2024. The meeting was duly published as provided by Indiana Code 5-14-1.5-5 subsection A, and now therefore be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, that from and after the first day of January 2024, the compensation of elected officials of the City of Madison, Indiana shall hereby be as fixed as follows. Mayor, $81,000. $68.14. Clerk Treasurer, $70,807. Common Council members, $8,106.80. And Board of Public Works members, $1,750. Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, as required by Indiana Code 36-4-7-2, hereby fix the annual compensation of all elected officials of the City of Madison, Indiana, beginning January 1, 2024, and continuing thereafter until change is provided by the law. The next ordinance is ordinance number 2023-14, an ordinance fixing salaries of appointed officers and employees of the City of Madison, Indiana for the year 2024. Be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, that from and after the first day of January 2024, the pay scale for the appointed officers and employees of the City of Madison, Indiana, shall hereby is fixed as follows. And that schedule is attached to the ordinance and outlines all of the maximum and minimum.
Can I ask that ordinance number one more time, please?
2023-15.
Thank you.
I may have said it wrong. So, gotcha. And those are attached to and for you to review. And the final ordinance is ordinance number 2023-16, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, amending the zoning map of the City of Madison, Indiana. Whereas it has been recommended by the City of Madison Plan Commission to the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, to amend the zoning map of the City of Madison, Indiana. Whereas the Madison Plan Commission has voted to recommend to the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the zoning of the following described property be changed from general business to historic district residential, and that is at 117 Ferry Street. Whereas it is in the best interest of the City of Madison and its citizens that the zoning map be amended accordingly, and whereas the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, concurs with the recommendations submitted to it by the Plan Commission. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, that Section 1, the City of Madison zoning map be amended so that the zoning for the following described real property is changed from general business to historic district residential, 117 Ferry Street. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after this date.
I might ask, are the Russells here? Want to say hello and maybe just describe the process. So this is an ordinance that is proposed to change the zoning on the property there. It's the first reading, so we're not taking comment on it. It's been introduced. At the second meeting, which is the second reading of the ordinance, which will be 2 weeks from tonight, we'll allow public comment as well as yourselves and council to ask any questions and discuss this. And then on the third reading, assuming it's, rules aren't waived, and the third reading, it has an up or down vote, and that could happen at the next meeting or 2 weeks from then. So I want to welcome you all to Madison. I know you're working hard to improve that property and making an investment here. I didn't want the night to go by without saying hello, because we haven't had a chance to meet yet, and also describe the process for you. Thank you, but welcome to our community. Council, are there any reports, recommendations, or other business from standing or select study committees from council tonight? Then we'll move on with, I'd like to introduce Scott Klein, who is our Parks Director, and he will also be discussing 2 contracts with Lifetime Resources. Aaron is here, and then also give a department report. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I think let's start with Lifetime Resources. We have a contract in front of you. We've worked an agreement with Lifetime Resources. I'll call it a proportional share agreement, where Lifetime Resources is willing to commit 2 years of congregate meals at our senior center. In return for that space, we will receive some funding for the renovations that we're making, as well as some support in personnel. Our senior center coordinator will get some relief from her funding from Lifetime Resources as well. You have the packet in front of you. I think it's fairly straightforward. If you have any questions on how the funding works, Erin would probably be better to speak to it than I would, since she lives the net world.
Scott, just clarification, are you referring to the snack provider agreement? Is this the one you're talking about first?
Yes.
And then there's another agreement which is between Lifetime Resources and the City of Madison, and that is relative to the ARP investment, so.
Correct.
Okay. And council, what we're doing tonight is asking Scott and Aaron to be present to answer any questions with regards to these two agreements. Carla, as you have already seen these, and they've received a favorable recommendation from the Parks Board to council to approve the agreements. And so at the conclusion of the presentation of these two agreements and any questions and answers, we'll be looking for a motion to approve the agreements and authorize the mayor to enter into the contracts. Anything else, Scott?
No.
Do you want to outline the terms? I know the council has already had an opportunity to review these, but maybe summarize them. I know you mentioned that SNAC is two-year agreement, and then I'm really grateful for Lifetime's investment in our center to upgrade the facilities there and help make much needed improvements. And I'll also point out to council, there is match funding requirements in here, which is also another role for council to approve. You're approving the contract, which also includes the appropriation of the match funding, and I believe that's coming in with the investment we're already making over there. If you haven't been there yet, the renovations there are really fantastic.
They are. The snack agreement is right now 2 days a week. We are doing congregate meals Tuesdays and Thursdays, with the potential of adding a third day as need arises. Our coordinator, Marianne, works with Lifetime on those 2 days to help pick up the meals, bring them back, help serve, clean up, and that's part of her role with Lifetime on those days. And then if we go to a third day, then that will include the additional hours. It's 4 hours a day for the 2 days, up to 12 hours a week for 3 meals a day. That's ongoing right now. Lifetime is providing that for our seniors as we speak. The second portion of this is proportional share from funding that Lifetime Resources receives for upgrades in facilities. And so we've put a lot of money from our own senior center funding into facilities right now, and then we will do a proportional share, get receipts to Lifetime Resources, and get a proportional share of money back for the work that we've done to help support the area that they specifically use for the congregate meals. Aaron, is there anything I need to add?
No, I don't. I would just say that it was ARP funding that we received, and we received that money, and it comes sort of in buckets that have to be used for certain things. One of which was for meals, and through the end of September, we have some flexibility to move some money from the home delivered realm over to the congregate realm, and so we're trying to kind of spend down some of that money while we can. We can only pay for the portion of the time and space utilized by our congregate meal program, and so that's why you're seeing those kind of odd percentages in there. And so I know you guys are kind of doing the work, but it can basically reimburse you for at least a portion of those costs for the area that we would be utilizing. So,
Thank you.
I think these are good agreements.
Yeah.
Invest in our facility, but also, invest in another service as you're describing here.
yeah, sorry, I would also say, with the snack coordinator, typically when, for one of our programs like a congregate meal site, we would provide the staff. But it would probably run more smoothly, if we were just basically reimbursing you for that portion of your staff members' time to just help run that program. And so that's kind of what we're doing here. Instead of us hiring another staff person to put in there a couple days a week, we're just gonna kind of reimburse you for that portion of that employee's time that they commit to that program.
Makes sense. And Carl, if you want to add anything to the conversation relative to support from Parks Board, feel free to do that at this time.
That all four of the park commissioners voted yes on the agreement with Lifetime. We see the value in our partnership with them and appreciate their investment in our seniors, in our senior community.
Between these agreements, do you know approximately how much the city will have to fund as our match?
I think we're looking at probably for, the snack piece of it is really, there really isn't much for us on the snack piece of it. The other piece of it, we're probably not going to exceed $10,000 for our portion of funding.
Thank you.
And that money is available through the senior center fund now, so it's not additional appropriation.
So is it just the three areas here at the top, the 10% match with a $5,000, that are on the front page of this? Is that correct? Thank you.
This is really hard to write because we actually have a very large pot of funds, but for the limited amount of time that we have to spend those funds, I just wrote an up to amount, so that you had flexibility to spend up to that amount. I didn't foresee there being any possibility that you would exceed that amount. So I certainly don't expect you to probably spend anywhere near the 50,000 that is technically available to you, if that makes sense. I think you guys have done most of the renovations, it's just that we'll reimburse you for the portion that we're able to, for the percent of time that we actually utilize for the congregate meal site. So we looked at the total numbers that the site is open, and then the hours of our operation, and that's essentially where we came up with that percentage that we're able to commit. And that's a stipulation that follows the funding, it's Title III funding, and that's just the stipulation.
If all of the funds were maxed out, the matching contribution would be approximately $10,000.
Thank you.
And those funds are already in the parks funding?
Yes, there is a separate senior center account that has the money that we've been using for the upgrades. So yes, the money's already there.
If there are no other questions, we would entertain a motion and a vote.
I would move that we authorize acceptance of this contract.
I'll second the motion. Are we accepting both contracts or just the
Both
snack provider?
contracts and authorizing the mayor to execute them.
Yes, all. Yes.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, council. Move on to your report.
Yes, I'll try and keep this brief. I have a lot to report, but there's a lot on the agenda tonight, so I'll keep it high level. If you want any more details, any more information, please reach out. I'll be more than happy to share it with you. Start talking a little bit about programming. For spring and summer, we had 21 separate programs available for the public, approximately 1,400 slots available. We had an 80% participation rate. We've also had for 2 senior trips for the senior center, which is a new thing for us. Both of them were at capacity, and we have a new one coming up in October for Huber Farms, and that is at capacity as well. At Sunrise Golf Course through the end of August, annual revenue is $399,735 against expenses of $329,550. Revenue is up $51,000 compared to last year, and expenses are down $9,000 during the same time period. As of August 31st, the campground shows the current revenue of $143,727 against last year's number of $134,363, an increase of $9,400. The current year expenses are $14,800 against $48,000 last year, for a net reduction of $34,000. Annual net revenue is $132,600 compared to $86,300. Now, last year there was a lot of money spent on upgrades and improvements, and so that's not really a repeatable expense. So it makes us look much better this year, but really we're about neck and neck with what we did last year as far as profit and even reservations. Everything's pretty much exactly the same with maybe a little tick upwards. So we're holding our own at the campground. Some more programming. Madison has 2 teams in the Hoosier Hills Youth Football League. We have a junior varsity team which has 31 players. That's grades 3 and 4. They're currently second in the league. Varsity has 32 players from grades 5 and 6. They're currently tied for first place at 3-0, and they play New Albany on Sunday, who's also 3-0. So that should be a good a good game down in New Albany. 37 players are on the varsity. We are working through youth basketball camps through a lot of volunteers, much appreciated for grades 3 and 4. We have about 60 kids participating. The camp runs through the end of September. We're in the process of organizing at least 3 girls basketball teams, and we'll probably have a 4th. We think we could do a 3rd grade team as well this year. Those teams will be entered into the Gary Van Wy League, participating as City of Madison teams. We're having 2 youth volleyball camps going on. We had one past Sunday and this coming Sunday. We have 28 people registered for that. We have 21 signed up for fall volleyball right now. Last year we had 50, so we're hoping to gain some momentum. We're going to go to the youth tailgate at Madison's football game on the 29th with a table and try and get some more sign-ups from there. Construction project overview. Crystal Beach is ongoing. If you've been by or been watching the camera, you can see a lot of rebar and a lot of concrete being poured, so it's exciting to see that work going on. We're on schedule for opening Memorial Day weekend of 2024. The renovations, as we talked about for the senior center, are nearing completion. We should be wrapped up with those by the end of the week and be ready for ribbon cutting next Wednesday. We'll have Lifetime Resources we talked about twice a week, and RSVP will move their offices there as well once we finish our renovations. The Brown Gym update. As many of you may know, we had a partial floor collapse along the northwest wall. We've uncovered what that is. We've engaged KPFF structural engineers out of Louisville. They have completed plans for that renovation. We have those out for proposals right now with 3 groups, Teton Corporation, Can Do Maintenance, and Rep and Munt, who is a contractor out of Columbus. We've asked for an alternate drawing on the putback, so we're waiting to hear back from that. We should receive that this week. Once we get that out, we'll get bids back in and we'll know what the cost of that is, and we'll come back and talk to you about that. It's not going to impact anything programming-wise that goes on in the gym. The area that is just outside of this is structurally sound. It's supported with steel beams. There's no issues at all on the basketball court or volleyball or pickleball. It's just up against one wall on the outside of the gym floor. So safety is not an issue for us. All the work can happen when the building is open and activities are going on. So the renovation will not cause any issues.
Do you have any idea what the cost is going to be, or is it too early?
I don't. If I were to look at a crystal ball right now off the top of my head, we're probably looking at $25,000 to $30,000. There's a lot of electrical in the way that has to get taken down for us to put the structure back, and then the electrical put back again. So that's going to be a little bit of a question mark what that's going to cost. I think the revised drawing of what we think we should do will be cheaper than what they originally designed, with a bunch of steel plates and bolts, and it didn't make a lot of sense, so we've asked them to revise that again. So I think that'll be faster to put it back, and it'll be less expensive as well.
Do you expect it's within what's currently budgeted for capital for next year, or is that some other special funding that we need to?
I think we'll have to look at where we are with funding, because this work really needs to get done next month. I don't want to drag it out any longer. It's been long enough. So once we know that number, we'll look internally and figure out where funding is, and then we'll come back and talk. But right now, I think if I were to guess, that'd be probably about the number. Not that if any bidders are listening, they didn't hear that number. Just so. Some big projects, planning projects. We've received 2 grants from Bethany Legacy Foundation for planning work at Sunrise Golf Course and for Rucker Sports Complex. The $108,250 Sunrise grant will pay for architectural work for improvements to the golf course. The improvements may include the addition of a driving range and practice area, as well as greens replacement, the potential of lengthening the course, and making irrigation improvements. We've scheduled visits from the College of Horticulture at Purdue University to help evaluate the condition of the course and the healthiness of the turf. Dr. Lee Miller visited a couple weeks ago and reviewed fungus and fertilization. Those are his specialties. And Dr. Aaron Patton is scheduled to visit next week on the 27th to look at the health of the grass and the turf. and see if we're doing well or if we've got other issues. Preliminary, everything looks really, really good up there, so we're not thinking we're going to get any big surprises. I think it's important for us to get this information as we look into a renovation and see what else we may not be thinking of, especially when it comes to the irrigation of the course. The irrigation is in very rough shape, but whatever we do, we want to be mindful of reducing irrigation, reducing pesticides, reducing fertilizers, reducing all those outside influences on the golf course, saving money, but also making the turf much healthier and a longer lifespan. The $4,750 grant for the Rucker Sports Complex will help provide some schematic designs for what Rucker could be in the future. So it's more current and looking at what what's more in tune with today's needs and looking out in the future about what may be better suited for that complex as well. That work should be starting here probably next month or two. We'll start talking with the architect and start working on plans. We'll have to have a conversation about public discussion about it, review, open comments, those type of things that we'll work on as well. So that's kind of the 20,000-foot view.
Scott, what's, I guess, being done to make sure that all the information you learn from those Purdue professors at the golf course gets translated over to the complex, for instance? I mean, it's not quite as delicate as a golf course, but.
Yeah, especially when it comes to irrigation and pesticide use. I really want to start using the rigs we have at the golf course to start spraying our own parks. So whatever program we come up with and understanding what we need there will definitely translate to all the other parks, so we can start doing that in-house, start saving some contractor dollars, and manage that work ourselves.
Well, good job on all the improvements, and you hit the highlights for all four of our big facilities. And bringing solvency to Sunrise Golf Course has been something we embarked on about 3 years ago, and I know we have about 3.5 months left of this season. We're going to have some intermittent weather, so play will probably be down a little bit, but I'm happy to see where we're positioning, because it's that revenue profile now that is allowing us to start planning for the future and starting to invest in a golf course that has had very little invested in it for about 40 years. Same thing with Rucker. We need to, those are our premier assets. We've already got Crystal Beach off the launch pad, and we're well on our way to a fantastic new aquatic center. But these other two major assets have to have new investment. The only way to do that is to continue to correct that revenue profile with them and make the investment for the future. So good job on all fronts.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to the ceremony next week at the Senior Center.
I am as well.
So this is Senior Center Awareness Month. So the first week, I went over and played ping pong, got beat. The second week, I went over and learned how to line dance, and my Apple Watch said I did about 1.45 miles while I was line dancing, literally in a box with everybody. It was a lot of fun. Great workout. Today we played bingo. So what's up next week, I wonder?
Next week is the ribbon cutting.
Ribbon cutting, and I want to jump on one of the tours too, because that looks really fun. I invite everybody to come there. I mean, you don't have to be my age to go there.
Or mine.
Get our younger or yours.
Yeah.
There's some really good athletes over there at our senior center. So all the kids back there in Mr. Barger's class, we challenge you to some ping pong. We're going to do a senior Olympics. Come over, have a lot of fun. It's a good time.
Thank you.
Any questions for Scott? Anything else? Moving on. Joe?
The final bill or ordinance on second reading is ordinance number 2023-12, and is ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, amending personnel policies and procedures of the City of Madison, Indiana to implement a parental leave policy. This is on second reading, so if there are any comments, now would be the time to make those.
I guess, do we have any clear definition of what we're gonna use to determine what a primary and secondary, or not primary and non-primary caregiver are?
I think that my personal opinion is the definition speaks for itself. And it is an all-encompassing definition for, all types of situations. And of course, when someone comes in and requests a new parental leave, they'll be identifying themselves as the primary caregiver. We are also offering benefits for a non-primary caregiver. But that's my opinion on it. And we have asked if anybody has a suggestion on a better definition, feel free to recommend it. And Mindy, you had helped craft this with Jenna and Katie as well, and we did some research with other HR policies. It's important that we support our families first and foremost, and our personnel policies date back to the early 80s, and nothing has really been done in a meaningful way to address the personnel policies or create this type of benefit for an employer that has, we have over 115 full-time employers, or employees, so it's time we do something and all.
I would just add that I've been in HR for, 12 to 15 years, and it's very common. That is the common language for parental leave. It's not new. But Jenna did call local companies, find out what their policies look like and what their terminology is. She has talked to other municipalities and what theirs looks like as well, and other, SHRM and other places like that do have samples of those kind of policies, and it's the common language for it. I think the piece that would be missing in that policy that happens inside here is our department heads working with their staff. We know who the primary caregiver is going to be. Typically it's to aid after birth or at adoption, so there's a bonding time. So, what I said to Jenna was, somebody has to take care of the child, somebody has to go to work.
But I guess the question is, what happens when somebody comes and says they're the primary caregiver, and is HR or the supervisor gonna make that determination?
I think there's a relationship with our staff that that comes into play there. I also not having a better option of nothing's been presented to us that would be better. I want to make sure the policy gets in place. We have nothing and have had nothing forever. So if we need to make amendments later, or if there's a change that needs to happen later, I think that's great. But for now, I'm happy with the policy as it is.
I guess the proposal I'd sent over to several people was to change primary caregiver to mothers giving birth, to allow that extra physical recovery and bonding, and then change non-primary caregivers to fathers and adoptive parents to still give them the opportunity for the bonding. Has there been
Sorry, I haven't seen that language, but are you saying that under adoption,
that there is no physical recovery?
so it would just be whatever
2
length
weeks
of time?
flat for both, or we could increase that to 3 weeks, or we could give 4 weeks to everybody if we want to. That's kind of the three options I'd kind of posed to some different individuals. I hadn't heard a lot of clear feedback.
You did share that with me, Josh,
Yeah.
and I spent a lot of time reviewing that, and I kept going back and forth, and I kept coming back to the verbiage that we chose in this whole policy. And I think that it covers everything we need to cover. I think that birth and adoption goes beyond just physical recovery. There's legal issues, there's bonding issues. We could get way into it, but I think that the words that we chose that are in here cover it.
My biggest concern is what happens when somebody comes in and says they're the primary caregiver, and we have to tell them, no, you're the non-primary, and are we setting ourselves up for a future discrimination lawsuit?
They have to
Because
state
we've
to that
done
on the
that.
forms. There's forms they'll fill out that they'll have to claim.
But if we
which
don't
one
have a
they are.
definition of that, then how can we say that they're not?
I
That's
would
my concern.
say that
I
if the
think there's a
individual
definition of
has,
primary caregiver already. Yes, and I believe
So what
that
definition do you not have?
if the individual has
what is it?
attested to that in writing, I'm not sure where the question would come in as legally as to why that would be an issue.
What is that definition then? Because I haven't seen that in writing.
I think wouldn't the issue be that if you've got one person claiming they're the primary caregiver, and then you've got another individual claiming that, I mean, I guess if they're at, it would be difficult to say that you've got two at the same
Same
time.
company, both working for the city, but
Yeah, or if you could, one's working for Grody and one's working for the city, I mean, they're gonna have to.
we don't use that language at all, but we simply have FMLA, so it's different, but.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know, I would caution the, trying to make a distinction between adoptive and parental, or birth mothers. Yeah, I would caution that. I think that's a pretty sticky wicket there.
Are you saying that it's best to leave it broad than it is to try
I
to
would
develop all of
I would
these
not like that over what we have.
defining?
Yeah, I would not like that over what we have. I mean, I'm not saying that I couldn't be open to some kind of definition. I just don't exactly know what it is. Didn't we? And I think when did we kind of take some of this from the state of Indiana, if I recall?
We reviewed their policies.
Did
too.
they have any
Again,
distinction?
I think coming back to Mindy's point too, there's a relationship here between the department head, or HR, the mayor's office, the employee. I personally, again, I think everybody in the room knows who their primary caregiver was. I do, without having to narrow the definition of it, candidly.
I like the way it's written. I think it's encompassing. I think it's well written. Thank you.
Well, as I said, I believe if we have attestation in writing, I think we're covering ourselves. So that's their choice as to whom they choose is the primary caregiver.
After Joe's comments on it, I had some concerns about the ambiguity of these terms as well, but after Joe's comments on it, I think I'm okay with that. Although, personally, I'd like to see 4 weeks paid for all parents, but I also saw Mindy's reaction to that as well from
We're also talking about
Yeah.
the budget.
we're getting started, and if it, again, there's nothing that can't be amended in the future, but this has been lacking for literally about 30 years, and I think it's a good place to start that provides a benefit that really emphasizes family support and specifically more support for the primary caregiver.
I think moving into the future, once we have this policy in place and we track how many of our employees actually go on parental leave, if it works within our budget in future years, I'd like to see us look to move to 4 weeks for all new parents.
I would agree.
We can,
My,
yeah.
my, my
sorry.
brother received that benefit 18 years ago.
Yeah.
He had 4 weeks off with both of his children.
I have worked for companies who've
As
given a lot,
secondary-
that
as
equal time off
secondary.
to both. My experience at other companies was that the non-primary parent caregiver, never took all that time.
Yeah, and it may not be something that they
Yeah.
take advantage of, but
And again,
it to
it's
be
not
there
like we're
could be
having
helpful.
a huge influx of children. So we will see how it goes and what happens.
I think it's great that we're trying to take care of the people who work for us, who get the work done.
There's also nothing to be said that if they use up their time, they can't take extra FMLA time.
Well, they can get 12 weeks of FMLA, but they can stay out longer than that through a combination of unpaid time, comp time, vacation, things like that. They can, short-term disability.
One other proposal I tossed out there was allowing, if both employees are city employees, should we allow them to pool that time rather than requiring that they take it separately?
By pool, do you mean one can give up their time to the other?
Yes.
I mean, FMLA is 12 weeks, so
You don't do that with vacation or any other benefit. Why would you look at this one different? Why would you allow
Same
them to
reason
pull
we
it?
have primary and non-primary definitions. One is always gonna be doing most of the, not always, in many cases, one is doing most of the work.
Again, I know we almost had that situation. I'm not sure how often we're gonna have this situation where we have two employees that are working for us that are having a child. I'm not,
we're trying to get a policy in place, and there's lots of scenarios and what ifs and an evolution of this in the future. We like where we landed with the beginning, and it's certainly not the end, but Josh, we think that this is a good proposal for council to consider.
And the last thing I had was just a simple grammatical thing. In the first paragraph, the paragraph for paid parental leave on page 2, strike the words for adoption. It's repetitive, but
okay,
so
thank you.
I'd make that motion that we strike the words for adoption after the under 18, since it's repetitive earlier in the sentence. Unless Joe disagrees.
Repeat where that's at, Josh, please.
Second paragraph, second page.
Oh, I see.
I think you made that comment via email too. I thought we removed it, but maybe we didn't get the updated copy in the book, but we will do it if we haven't.
I'll second that.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, council. We do not have any miscellaneous items, so we'll open it to the floor. If there's anybody here who would like to make a public comment to the mayor's office or city council, now would be the time. Just like with the public hearing, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and make your statement, please.
I'm Lisa Ferguson. I live at 718 East 2nd Street. I had to sit there for a moment and just take in all that Erin had to say. That was a lot. I've not had the pleasure of meeting her, but just encourage you all, because while I'm not a Madison native, I moved here with the intent of taking care of elderly family members. And so nothing is more important to me than how we take care of our elderly and how we take care of our veterans. And that's specifically my goal right now for living out my best life in Madison. So if it's $25,000, I would love to see a way to find that in the money, because that seems so small for the job and tasks that she has at hand. I sat there for a while just trying to absorb what that would mean to my family, and they have a support system, and many don't. I've met many people in town, a 30-year Navy veteran who's 79 years old, who's food insecure, and so she's become a part of my mission field. But that would be very important to me if we could get more funding and more things that we could give to them. Those people have already given back. They're not able to get out and work anymore. We're spending a lot of resources for a lot of people who are able to get out and make their own way and are choosing not to. My aunt and uncle have worked their whole life for what they have, and that's the most important thing to me. So if it came down to a budget line item, my bleeding heart, if you want to say, would be to always go for the people who've served this country and who've lived out their best life and given to this town. That's all.
Thank you.
Good. And I see the Kings are here to speak again, to talk about our issues in Miles Ridge that I addressed with the traffic committee and mayor's office and chief. So I just.
My name's Adam King. We live in Miles Ridge, 521. It's out of hand up there still. We sat on our porch yesterday and watched over 50 cars in 30 minutes. More than half of them didn't even stop at the stop sign. So we turn the stop sign into a yield sign and just let them go through? Some blatantly just didn't stop at all. Some slowed down. Others sped through. As you know, there is lots of kids just on Miles Ridge Road now than there has been. The kids are getting older. They're on their bikes. Somebody's going to get hit. The kids are going to go off to the side. They're going to get caught in the grass. They're going to wind up in the middle of the street and get hit. Yesterday, I observed a guy in his golf cart, literally off to the side. He had to have been doing almost 20 miles an hour, and I watched two cars directly behind him, didn't even slow down, flew by him. Here we go again. I mean, they're not even slowing down. And it's not just people going through, it's people that live up there. And that's sad. I can pick out cars right and left, and I can tell you where they live, unfortunately, because we walk that area. There's lots of people that walk. Lots of people that walk. Lots of people that walk with their animals. Somebody's going to get hit. It's just out of control. Yesterday when we were walking, we watched two people blow through the stop sign, didn't even slow down. There's going to be problems up there.
Which stop sign are you referring to specifically?
The one down at the end by the new house when we were walking yesterday.
Quail Ridge.
Yeah. But there by you, I mean, they just blow by that stop sign.
Yeah.
They don't care. They just, today, we parked. And it was a good thing the meeting actually went longer so I could calm down a little bit because it really upset me. We got ready to cross the street, and the guy went right through the light, almost hit us. We came across the other way. A lady almost turned right into my wife because she wasn't paying attention. They don't care. They just go and expect you to stop, and it's a wonder somebody hasn't been hurt. But Miles Ridge is out of control. We need to do some kind of a speed bump or some kind of a dip or something to slow them down. The speed limit's 20 miles an hour. It's posted coming in. I don't know what else to do. I guess I could throw tennis balls at them. I don't want to do that. That just causes trouble, but we shouldn't have to do that. Kids are going to get hurt. I can feel it already. And so is somebody walking. Whether it be somebody walking their pets or walking their families on Miles Ridge.
So Josh, have we posted, we were gonna add some additional speed limit signs up there, have those been placed?
No, nothing's really been changed since our discussions last year. Everything kind of fizzled out. We got busy with other priorities, and it's probably hit the back burner, and so.
And we've never taken up the machine up there that, shows you how fast you're going and
Not,
flashes at you, has that been used?
it was on Hannah Drive for a while, right, Chief?
Yes, it's been in the front part of Miles Ridge, but not necessarily back.
And as I kind of discussed when I emailed the traffic committee and a few others, I mean, it's both parts, right? It's not just the straight section in the new part of Miles Ridge, it's the old part, the curvy downhill section where the visibility is pretty bad. It's all the stop signs. The Poplar Ridge one is probably the worst. That one and maybe the Woods Edge Drive. But they do get going pretty fast, right by my house. My kids are in the front yard. I don't let them get too close.
Now, I even know, even coming down Hannah, coming towards Miles Ridge, if you're doing 20 and you start going down the hill, you automatically go faster than 20 miles an hour with no gas on. You have to hit your brakes to stay within that 20 mile. But still, are we going to wait till somebody gets hit or killed or hurt, whether it be a family or a kid, before we do something? I mean, I'm going to put it out there. I mean, it's gotten bad.
I would just remark, it's maddening, candidly, how big a problem this is across the city.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure it's not just Miles Ridge.
It's pick a street, just any street in the city.
Right out here.
And you could take the exact response you have and apply it to any street. Just last week we had a meeting about the East End traffic issues we're having. There's 300,000 cars a month on that little corridor. There's hundreds of thousands of cars traversing all across the city all the time, and we have really bad driving behavior.
Yes.
It's very bad driving behavior. And we have neighborhoods and people living in those neighborhoods who, Adam, I think you're saying, it's a little bit of everybody.
Yes.
And, we don't have neighborhood associations getting together talking about the problem because they're not, honestly, they're ambivalent about it. So it's, I wish, and I'm not saying we can't do anything. It's just that what will work? What's the panacea? And pick your part of town.
Right.
What will work? There's bumps, humps, cushions, or speed cushions, speed tables, stop signs, lower speed limits.
Right.
But we're still talking about the core behavior of people in the cars. And they're distracted, and they're in a hurry, and they're everywhere. And, you know, we have a very small police department who already is responding to almost 15,000 calls a year.
Right.
So I'm open to suggestions on something that will work, because obviously a slower speed limit isn't gonna work. You know, putting in a stop sign isn't gonna work. Is a speed, what's gonna work?
I would tell you that from my experience, our neighborhood, Green Road had speed bumps, and it was the worst. They were loud. People swerved in grass to go around them. They sped up to go over them because they didn't think it would be as big a bump. So they've removed them from there, and it's the same thing. Hey, can we do something? Somebody's gonna get hurt, and
would an education
fortunately,
campaign work? You know, to alert people about the issue. You know, what will work? We're talking about, at the core, the behavior of the person behind the wheel who is in total control of what they do at that moment. And interdicting them is virtually impossible. Unless they have a vehicle that says, that governs their car. And we know that doesn't exist very well. I'm open to suggestions. We struggle a lot when in the traffic committees, because we hear the same thing, and then we collect the data. We're looking at, you know, how many cars are going there, how fast are they going, when are the peaks and valleys of when they're going there, what percentage of them are speeding. And we do some intermediate stuff, like what the chief is doing. We'll put a police officer up there, they'll monitor for a little bit, and then they get deployed somewhere else. And the problem, it is just constantly shifting, constantly. But I'm open to suggestions, and Chief, you may have some remarks on this, and the things we have invested into, Adam, already, that even though you don't feel it, it's made the city safer, but you don't feel it because you see it right there in front of your eyes.
Right. I don't know, I kind of get the feeling, and I'm not trying to be rude or anything, nothing will be done unless somebody gets hurt, and that's what we're waiting for.
What can be done? What can be done? Let's be honest. What is the one thing that will change that driver's behavior, that he's going to slow down and recognize that stop signal and not speed more than 20 miles an hour?
I don't know. I guess I would have to say it's up to you guys, because you guys are the ones that are in control of this.
Boy, I tell
Not
you,
me.
we're not in control of the driver, unfortunately.
Can we speak for just a moment on some of the things that are happening?
No, we're still on Miles Ridge.
Okay, go on.
Okay.
Laramie King, 521 Miles Ridge Road. Tickets would help. If I was ticketed, I would start slowing down and I would start paying attention. We are forced to walk in the street Miles Ridge. It's a very narrow road. We have lots of people that walk, lots of kids that are riding their bicycles, and we are forced into the road. Every day we have to get off the road and walk into the grass. We have to watch behind us because of the people coming around, and they don't slow around us, they speed around us. We watch them go back and forth through the stop signs. I would be happy if you came up there and ticketed people. It's just a fact. If I start getting tickets for the behavior, bad behavior, integrity is what you do when people aren't watching, right? And that's not what's happening up there. We have people that have no integrity. They don't care. And sooner or later, when you get into a habit of not doing what you're supposed to be doing, not stopping, sooner or later someone's gonna get hurt. Because you're out of the habit of doing it. So when you force people out into the streets and you're not paying attention or you're not doing anything to prevent what's going on up there, when you put it up, when we put the speed gizmo up on Hannah Drive, people slow down. They're like, oh no, crap, but if we start ticketing people, and I know that's not popular, I get it, give me a ticket and I slow down. It's just a fact, so that would be my suggestion, but if you make us walk in the street.
I have a question there. Who's forcing you to walk in the street?
There's no sidewalks.
Okay, and it's unsafe to walk in that street, so go somewhere else and walk. I can't walk in my street in the neighborhood, so I go somewhere else.
That's my community.
But you're telling us that it's a safety issue up there,
Yeah, there's hundreds
and you're
of
being
people that are
forced
watching
there.
the street
I
cross.
understand that.
So you don't tell people not to walk on the street when you got speeders. You fix the problem.
Is it my job to make the?
And what are we gonna do?
There's been suggestions for speed humps or tables, more stop signs.
Tickets?
The tickets.
Would you slow
There
down
are-
if you were ticketed? So you just tell me, just don't walk.
I didn't
Go
tell you
walk
not to walk.
somewhere else.
That's exactly what I said, yes.
Wow. Okay.
Somewhere safer, maybe.
If I may, I tried to offer this a moment ago and was cut off. But if I may offer this, and I believe the chief is about to speak to it, the city is adding more officers within the next couple of weeks, and part of their project is going to be additional traffic control. Now, admittedly, that'll be spread out across the city, not specific to one neighborhood, but that's a start. We also are researching such things as speed tables and speed cushions to see what's appropriate and what we think will work in given circumstances. So it's not that nothing's being done. However, it is a slow process. And to your point, there are many, many people who simply aren't paying attention to the law as it sits, and they do what they want to do. Unfortunately, officers cannot be everywhere, but with the addition of these 4 officers, their ability to enforce the law will certainly improve. Chief?
Thank you. And I don't doubt what you folks are observing. I don't doubt that. But I did sit up there at 5 o'clock today and was there. I know it's just a very small microcosm of the entire set of circumstances, but I sat there at 5 o'clock today until about 5:15 and counted, and I was sitting on Poplar Ridge at the three-way stop here at Miles Ridge. 35 cars came through, 32 stopped, and 3 rolled through. And I mean a slow roll through. Now, I'm not doubting what you're saying. I don't know what that means. Yeah. Oh, okay. And I'm not doubting your folks' word. I'm just saying that I know that's a small window of what's going on, but actually, I was frankly surprised that we had that many compliant with that stop sign. But like I said, that's not all of them, and I'm sure there are some that totally disregard it. I'm not doubting your words whatsoever. But as Councilman Bartlett said, we are just about through some training processes, and certainly will enhance that area with officers and hopefully to put a stop to it. But as I think as a mayor and some of you pointed out, I mean, it's that's the complaints I get every day.
I think it's okay to experiment with interdiction devices. We don't have the manpower to monitor stop signs. But we could, it would be very expensive. Even a portable speed table might cost you $5,000. We could buy one, put it there, see if it slows down for that area. The problem is significant, and I hear you on the problem. The solutions are so elusive, but we can experiment and try. And I know that Councilman Chatham's remark. There are 40 miles of sidewalks, and please take your safety into consideration. I had the exact same conversation with the East End group down there because they wanted to cross the street, and I said, please have situational awareness. Go to a lighted intersection. Everybody wants to enjoy their neighborhoods, and I don't blame and fault you for that. But situational awareness is key, and if it is a problem, until there is a better solution, please take your safety into consideration. We've got to deal with it. We have 9 square miles, over 60 miles of roads, 40 miles of sidewalks, and we have a police department with 33 officers in it that have to cover the entire city 24 hours a day. That becomes a remarkable challenge, and there's always, just like what we talk about, always the allocation of resources toward priorities. But we can invest in
Yeah.
Something like that that would be temporary or portable, let's put it in there, see if it made a difference.
Absolutely, and you hit on earlier, Mayor, and correct, that, we'll be in position to monitor and do what we can, and then we're called away within a few minutes, and that's why I left that detail. I mean, obviously, I was getting ready to come to this meeting, but then we had a personal injury accident on the Michigan Hill, which we had to shut the entire hill down, which takes all of our resources. I know excuses aren't the answer, and I'm not trying to make them, but as the mayor pointed out, then other things do take place, but we'll certainly enhance our patrols up here and do the best we can to put a resolve to it. Miles Ridge is just a very, very busy road. There's a lot of folks that live back there, and you're probably right. I mean, probably 90% of the people that are violating it do live back there. You would hope that they would adhere to laws throughout the city, but especially in your own neighborhood. But and you're right. Sometimes hitting the wallet makes the difference. We don't like to do that. I mean, obviously, nobody wants to give anybody a ticket. Nobody wants to see anybody pay out a healthy fine. But if that's what we need to do, then that's what we'll do. But we'll continue at it.
So like when we had our issue with the semis on Main Street,
Yes.
we specifically assigned an officer, temporarily, and that has gotten much better. Would it be possible to do a similar project in different areas of the city, similar to what we've done on Main Street?
Sure, absolutely. With Main Street, we use a retired officer, Dan Steffen. That's his job. I'm not going to say which days he's in, but he's in a majority of them. And before 10 o'clock this morning, I think he had 3 or 4 citations. Some days he'll go and think, well, we got this thing whipped. People have finally figured it out, and then the next day we'll sit down here and there'll be a rash of semis come through.
So maybe we could figure out a time frame that it
Right.
seems to be a big problem in Miles Ridge, and maybe
and I
he
think
could go
yes.
there for a day or two.
I think certainly on the weekends, a lot of folks are out and about, but I know at 5 o'clock generally, 4 or 5 o'clock is the prime hour for a lot of traffic through there, folks getting off work. So yeah, we know the times, and in the morning going. That we can hit it.
Collecting
So,
information and the data would
Right.
be very helpful. So we can apply the resources when they're needed, so that you can, have that type of approach to it and see if we can make a difference.
Now, we'll point out, I was sitting up there, but I was sitting in I have a vehicle that you would never guess is a police vehicle, so one neighbor walked up to me, wanted to know what I was doing, and I identified who I was, and he thanked us for being there, and he did reiterate that there's some issues with people running stop signs, so it's not falling on deaf ears. The mayor and I and
There are things we can try.
Councilman Schaefer have been talking about
How do
it.
you change the behavior of thousands of people in these cars?
Yeah.
And I'm talking hundreds of thousands of
Right.
people throughout the course of a month across our city.
I think there's certainly 2 classes too. There's those people that, like Adam mentioned, you start at 20 miles an hour, you're drifting down the road, all of a sudden you're at 25, and when you're on a 20-mile-an-hour road, that 5-mile-an-hour increase is huge when you're talking about kids playing or people walking. But then there's those other ones that are going 30, 35, speeding down the straightaway, and most of them are probably younger kids, just got their license, unfortunately. It'll take time. Not all of them.
I talked to the
Not
young
all
kids
of
back
them.
here. They'll tell me that they do a better job stopping the stop signs than us older folks do, right?
Yeah.
That's what you kids told me, right? I won't tell her why she said with weekends. I think it was a vision thing, right? Yeah, that's what you told me.
Some people
But
get rid
yeah,
of that
I did
lead foot.
check with them back here to see, but yeah, it's something we need to do can do a better job at, and will.
I think it's also important to note these conversations happen time and time again throughout the city, and when the city engages in the planning process for new subdivisions and new developments within the city, we should not allow them to be built without sidewalks for pedestrian safety.
Agreed.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that have happened in the past that should no longer happen.
Does require that. The subdivisions in the city are frankly 30, 40 years old. Those provisions, were not embedded in the approval, but yeah, the city, we need to grow, we need more housing, and that is going to be an opportunity for us to change the future and take those things into consideration better. So Adam and Laramie, I'm sorry that we don't have a quick solution, but I commit to you, we will try things. We will try things. We're still on public comment, so Dina?
Thank you. Thanks for the proclamation. Appreciate you. I was on the core committee to open the Recovery Cafe, so I'm very involved. I'm still on the board there. And I'm the founder of Citizens of Jefferson County for Suicide Prevention. And when I started that group, some of my goals were to change the stigma about mental health and suicide. And that's a very big job, I'm finding. To educate as many people as possible on signs and symptoms of suicide, what to say and what not to say in a crisis. To bridge the gap between all agencies, including Centerstone, LifeSpring, Norton's KDH, the Sheriff Department, Madison Police Department, EMTs, first responders, etc. We've made great strides in doing that. I'm working with Centerstone and LifeSpring almost on a daily basis. I've met with Carol Dozier and Nadja Boone, and we stay in constant communication. So things are happening that are helping. I also am I'm the coordinator to bring CIT, which is Crisis Intervention Team training here to Madison and Jefferson County. One of the things I wanted to talk about is a lost team that I sit on a 2-hour meeting last week, and I would like to have your support if possible. A lost team, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, I had not, is a team of people that would take intense training, and we would be going on the scene, so we would have to work closely with police and the coroner. I've talked to Rodney Day, he's in support because of the 2 losses last week. So the lost team would be trained very intensively. We would go on the scene for support of the family, nothing else, so that the police could do their criminal investigation, whatever they need to do. They would not be sidetracked with helping with the family. The coroner could do what they need to do. We would be supporting the family. I have 2 pastors on our team, and they would be very involved in that as well. So you'll be seeing some emails from me about that, some of you, and if we could get that here, because it's all volunteer. I'm actually applying for a grant for that because we would need clothing that said lost team and that sort of thing to identify who we are. On the scene, we would provide bottled water, some other things that I'm learning that we would need. So I'm asking for money from them to get that. Hopefully, I'm going to finish that application soon. I'm also have applied for a Bethany Legacy Grant so that I can be trained and Scott Coleman can be trained, because that training is $500 to become QPR certified to train. I want to train as many people that will listen on what the signs and symptoms are. I would like to get into the schools and teach children what to listen for with their families and their friends so that they will know before we get into a crisis. If I could get paid to do this full time, it would keep me busy. But I work at Grody during the day. So I also work for Jim Pruitt doing photography, so I'm a very busy person. I'm on the board at the Recovery Cafe. But I just wanted to give you just an idea. Since we started this group, this suicide prevention group, I got the call on June the 20th about Mr. Clark taking his life. And when I heard this story, I thought we can do better. We can bridge the gap. There's a gap with mental health. We all know that. There's not enough resources. And so citizens can help. We can get trained, and that's what we're doing. So within 5 days, I set up a meeting, and I had 27 people from the community show up. I have 512 people on a Facebook page that just started at the end of June. That's how much this is on the minds of the community, right? I have been in 2 homes of suicidal moms already in Indiana, or here in Madison. I have taken 24 text messages or phone calls of people hurting and thinking of ending their life. So it's huge. It's growing faster. I'm staying up till 11, 12 at night. I'm talking to EMTs because EMTs are calling me because they haven't. We don't train. I was an EMT for about 7 years. We got 0 suicide training when I was an EMT. So I think our frontline people need to be trained. That's one of the reasons I want to become a trainer. So I'm planning on being very busy. But I just wanted to let you know how big this thing really is in our community. And when I went into the 2 homes, these were women, and I verified that they didn't have weapons. I verified that I was going to be safe before I went in. But these are 2 women who work 40 hours a week, but they're raising children. Their rent's too high, their light bill's too high, their car insurance is too high, and they're not making it, and they get in over their head. And so then when their car breaks down or they need new tires, then they can't pay their light bill. It's just, I know there's a lot of people hurting in our community, so I don't think this problem is gonna go away anytime soon. I think we're gonna have more of those calls. And so I just wanted to say, if I could have your support, with what we're trying to do, that would mean a lot. And if there is money earmarked for, mental health, we would appreciate some of that too, because we are printing flyers right now, with our own money. And, we set up down on the river for World Suicide Day and handed out lots and lots of flyers, and we talked to a lot of people. Our PTSD group grows every week. The grief support group starts next week. It's going to just keep getting bigger. The world is a hurting world today. So I just thank you for the proclamation, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. And you didn't mention it, or maybe you did, but the Out of Darkness Walk is this weekend, isn't it?
We will be participating in that. Our team.
And the staging area for that is at the park, Bicentennial?
Yes.
This year?
Yes. Yeah. And our group is going to walk in that as support.
Okay, good. Thank you for everything you're doing. Are there any other public comments for this evening? I'll just end on a couple of things here. And I did mention the traffic safety meeting because we do want to address this problem and collect information and try to bring solutions to all parts of our community. And the work that our traffic safety committee is doing has been exceptional. The data collection is really an important part. I want to thank Mark, who is here, and Bob Demery, who is not here, but thank you for today's courier, which highlighted tremendous, what I consider partnership success that we've been working on for the last few years. The Sunrise, Shops at Sunrise, and soon-to-be Residents at Sunrise Crossing, the dedication of Gaines Park, and here is Reverend Gaines' two grandsons who were there. And then something else I'm very proud of is our partnership with Habitat for Humanity in developing an actual subdivision called Clifty Woods that's going to accelerate the construction of about 6 new homes, for affordable homes for residents. And the partnership that Bethany Legacy is also forging with us that will fund approximately $1 million for the homes. You might notice this 2x6 over here. It's not here because we're getting ready to do construction in city and council chambers, but earlier today, Tony and I met with Habitat, and they had their first groundbreaking yesterday for the first home in Clifty Woods, and they presented us with this 2x6, and they have a fundraiser going on, and it's basically people can buy a 2x6, decorate it, and it'll actually be installed in the home of the family that will occupy their new future. And so she brought one down to City Hall for us. We are going to decorate this, and then proudly it will be installed in a home, in the first home at the Clifty Woods subdivision that we're partnering with them and Bethany. But you can go online and learn more about this, buy this, and help support the mission of Habitat, which is bringing very, very good housing to families that need it. And it's a great step for their families' lives. But I want to mention that that's why this is here, and invite you to support Habitat's mission in conjunction with our partnership. With that, I will mention that the next council meeting will be Tuesday, October the 3rd. Council, if there's anything you'd like to add for the benefit of our meeting tonight, feel free. I want to thank everybody for being here, and also Mr. Barger's class. You saw your government in action. It's a service-oriented business. It's complex. There's lots of needs. Sometimes there's not quick and easy solutions, but we always keep trying to solve a problem to make life better and safer in the city of Madison. So if you all have any questions, I'll answer them. If you want to come up to the podium, you're invited to as well.
That's what every high school kid wants. Yeah.
in the 4 years that I've been mayor, I've had one person come up, and she actually interned for us this past year and is now in college. But it's always great to have you and other classmates from Mr. Barger's class come back anytime. Okay. All right. So, council.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Joe.
I don't often